Peace, love, and light to the people watching. My content is for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough for you guys to do your own research. Praise my content. Put it in the comments if you find any errors. None of us have been live long enough to know all that transpired in the past, and none of us can live long enough to know all there is to learn. Okay. It's the reason why I put that at the beginning of all my videos, because it's a fact. Tonight's video, man, I'm going to talk about and read from an extensive breakdown regarding the Christian black codes. Reason why I'm going to do this is because, and I've mentioned this before in my videos, a lot of the things that I talk about on my channel are not taught in the educational curriculums. Again, the educational curriculums are bought and paid for. They're only allowed to teach a certain limited amount of things, and this is why I always make the example, for those that have acquired degrees and things of that nature. Don't poke your chest out, especially if you one of the ones that got the degree and that shit claiming for, yeah, I got a mat, whatever. Okay, I'm not knocking it. I ain't hating. But again, what you got that piece of paper for is only a portion of that 1 degree of knowledge. And do not forget that there are 360 degrees of it. Well, that's my opinion. But again, even if you was to live 500 years, you still wouldn't be able to learn all there is to learn. So, humble yourself. Being humble is a good thing, But anyway, let me get into it, man. Let me show y'all this document that I'm about to read from, This is just one of the little tidbits of information that I've compiled over the years. Excuse me. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. The Christian Black Codes of 1724 were initiated during Reconstruction after the Civil War to control blacks after they were emancipated. I got to pause because I know a lot of, the popular opinion is, man, you still on that? Man, we've been free, Yeah, okay. If you didn't know about this, I would cease that narrative. Anyway, passed by southern states instead of giving blacks the same rights as white people. And again, I got to stop again. White and black are nothing more and nothing less than legal statuses. Don't take Malik's word for it. Go and look it up for yourself. If you have access to a law dictionary. All right, hold on. Passed by southern states instead of giving blacks the same rights as white people, the codes limited blacks' freedom severely. They included that blacks had to be in service of a white person, that they could not have congregations together, that they could not speak out, and that they could not have weapons. They also included that blacks could not go out without a white supervisor. Thus, blacks had to take on the religions and holidays and gods of their white superiors. The same black codes were said to have been made null and void with the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865, although many southern states adopted black codes to keep former slaves from voting and imposed other restrictions. The 14th and 15th Amendments, were to supposedly had eliminated these codes. Supposedly. But as you read them down below and study the law of the land in conjunction with religion and politics, you'll discover these codes have been modernized in a disguise, and many are still in effect. The Christian Black Codes of 1724. I remember when I first got my pardon and I was able to bear arms again. I was bearing arms anyway, but, legally, I've been able to bear arms. And, one of my associates, referred to me as Pistol Pete. But listen, man, I know my history, and I know all the hell our ancestors went through under this so-called freedom thing they talk about all the time. You understand? There's layers to that. There's levels, But anyway, I'll be damned if I'm going to be somebody's victim. Give a fuck what your title is. Anyway, Article 1 decrees the expulsion of the Jews from the colony. Okay, now anybody that done any real kind of research know who the real Jews are. So that makes sense to me. All right. Article 2, make it imperative on masters to import religious instructions to their slaves. And this is post-Emancipation Proclamation. Article 3, permits the exercise of Roman Catholics' creed only. Every other mode of worship is prohibited. Article 4, Negroes placed under the direction or supervision of any other person than a Catholic are liable to confiscation. Here they are, still referring to us as property. No more than a dog or a fucking cat. Article 5, Sundays and holy days. Holy days. All right? You guys refer to them as holidays. All right? Are to be strictly observed. All Negroes found at work on these days are to be confiscated. Article 6, we forbid our white subjects of both sexes to marry with the blacks, under penalty of being fined and subjugated to some other arbitrary punishment. We forbid all curates, priests, or missionaries of our secular or regular clergy, and even our chaplains in our Navy, to section, and then it has sanction in parentheses, such marriages. We also forbid all of our white subjects and even the manumitted or free-born blacks to live in a state of concubinage with slaves. Should there be any issue from this kind of intercourse, it is our will that the person so offending and the master of the slaves should pay each a fine of 300 livres. I guess that was the currency at the time. Should said issue be the result of concubinage of the master and his slave, said master shall not only pay the fine, but be deprived of the slave and of the children, who shall be adjudged to the hospital of the locality, and said slave shall be forever incapable of being set free. But shall this illicit intercourse have existed between a free black and his slave, when said slave, according to the forms described by the church, said slave shall become free and legitimate, and in such case there shall be no application of the penalties mentioned in the present article. Article 7. The ceremonies and forms prescribed by the ordinance of... Okay. Not only is the ink a little blotted on this, the word is spelled B-L-O-I-S. Blois. It's the best way I can pronounce it. The ceremonies and forms prescribed by the ordinance of Blois and by the Edict of 1691 for marriage shall be observed both with regard to free persons and slaves. But the consent of the father and mother of the slave is not necessary. That of the master shall be the only one required. See, so that tells you that back in the day, even over here, the parents used to arrange the marriages. You know, the way society, and I made mention of that in a previous video, man, the way society then shaped up to be, man, like, you know, a lot of us, especially nowadays, have no clue as to what our ancestral culture and practices were. We going off of everything that you know, the government is sanctioning and pushing. You know, whatever the popular thing is, you know what I mean, regardless of right or wrong or the moral fiber attached to it. You know, everybody following the followers. Secret societies is following our ancient ancestors, only twisted that is. They didn't contorted and twist around the ancient knowledge that they got from our ancestors, disconnected us from it, and use it against us. And then the other portions that's left over, they didn't demonize to keep us away from it, because that's what we used to whoop their ass with. Look up the Haitian Revolution. I keep telling y'all, you know, keep listening to these people, man. These the same jokers, man. Let me get back to it. Article 8. We forbid all curates to process to effect marriages between slaves without the proof of the consent of their master. Hold on. If this is post-Emancipation Proclamation, what the fuck are they talking about? Okay. And we also forbid all masters to force their slaves into marriages against their will. Article 9. Children issued from the marriage of slaves shall follow the condition of their parents and shall belong to the masters of the wife and not of the husband. This is they adopted this straight to the the state practices, child support. You know, it's all the breakdown. See, this shit was going on way back then. All the breakdown, the African family structure. So you sisters that's perpetuating this, you know, you need to start making better decisions. You know, don't lay down with it. You got to think more beyond what a joker looked like, you know, or how infatuated you may be by the individual, you know, the size of his genitalia and all that, you know, because that ain't going to raise your child. That's not going to... You get it? All right? I'm a victim of it too. You know, I was young and dumb, full of cum at one point in time. You know, it's just a process, man. You don't get to be old and wise without first being young and dumb. Okay. Hold on. Okay, yeah, and not of the husband. If the husband and wife have different masters. Article 10. If the husband be a slave and the wife be a free woman, it is our will that the children of whatever sex they be shall share the condition of their mother and be as free as she, notwithstanding the servitude of their father. And if the father be free and the mother a slave, then the children shall be slaves. Article 11. Masters shall have their Christian slaves buried in consecrated ground. 12. Article 12. We forbid slaves to carry offensive weapons or heavy sticks under the penalty of being whipped and or having said weapons confiscated for the benefit of the person seizing the same. An exception is made in favor of those slaves who are hunting or are shooting for their masters, and who carry with them a written permission to that effect, or are being designated by some known mark or badge. Sambo. Steven off Django. In the big house, this nigga here. Yeah, dumb. Yeah, they still around. They still around. Don't you fucking forget it. Anyway, Article 14. Masters who shall be convicted of having permitted or tolerated such gatherings as aforesaid, composed of their slaves than their own, shall be sentenced individually to indemnify their neighbors for the damages occasioned by their gatherings, by said gatherings, and to pay for the first time a fine of 30 livres and double that sum on repetitions of the offense. Article 15. We forbid Negroes to sell any commodities, provisions, or produce of any kind, or produce of any kind, without the written permission of their masters, or without wearing their known marks or badges, and any persons purchasing anything from Negroes in violation of this article shall be sentenced to pay a fine of 1,500 livres. Articles 16, 17, 18, and 19 provide at length for the clothing of slaves and their subsistence. Article 20. Slaves who shall not be properly fed, clad, and provided for by their masters may give information thereof to the Attorney General of the Superior Council. That was the old Superior Court. Or to all officers of any inferior jurisdiction, and may put the written exposition of their wrongs into the hands, upon which information and even ex officio shall the information come from another quarter. The Attorney General shall persecute said masters without charging any cost to the complainant. It is our will that this regulation be observed in all accusations for crimes or barbarous and inhumane treatment brought by slaves against their masters. Hold on. It is our will that this regulation be observed in all accusations of crimes or barbarous and inhumane treatment brought by slaves against their masters. Oh my goodness. Article 21. Slaves who are disabled from working either by old age, disease, or otherwise, be the disease incurable or not, nor shall be fed and provided for by their masters. And in case they should have been abandoned by said masters, said slaves shall be adjudged to the nearest hospital, to which said master shall be obligated to pay 8 cents a day for the food and maintenance for each one of these slaves, and for the payment of this sum, said hospital shall have a lien on the plantation master. Boy, it's a damn shame, man. You got these punk ass police dogs. You defend yourself against getting bit the fuck up. You gotta do life for killing one of them motherfuckers. But every cop walk around this motherfucker that done killed one of us, go home. Matter of fact, they just I think it's only one case that I know of where they, jokers got locked up. Matter of fact, the Freddie Gray situation, they prosecuting the other cops that sat around, and watched it happen. And the outcome of that it has yet to be revealed. Excuse me. Article 22. We declare that slaves have no right to any kind of property, but that all that they acquire either by their own industry or by the ability of others or by any other means, or title whatever, shall be the full property of their masters. See, this is how they came up with what I talked about in History 101. Anybody that's watching this video and you want to know more about this particular article, and I'm going to read it all again, go and watch History 101. It's about 5 portions of it. All right, so I'm going to start again at Article 22. We declare that slaves have no right of any kind to any kind of property, but that all that they acquire either by their own industry or by the ability of others or by any means or title whatever shall be the full property of their masters, and the children of said slaves, their fathers, mothers, their kindred or other relation, either free or slave, shall have no pretensions or claim thereto, either through testamentary nor positions or donations inter vivos. I don't know what that means. I'm going to have to look that up. Matter of fact, I don't even think I got my law dictionary here. Okay, yeah. I'll get back to that. I'll give y'all the meaning of that. If anybody wants to know the meaning of it, well, you could probably look it up, but, I'm just reading this. I didn't expect for them to have, their old, legalese and legal terms in this, but, which depositions and donations we declare null and void. Okay, so let me go back. Let me go back to the beginning of that sentence because I stopped. I might as well go back. We declare that slaves have no right to any kind of property, but that all that they acquire, either by their own industry or by the ability of others, or by any other means or title whatever, shall be the full property of their masters, and the children of said slaves, their fathers, mothers, their kindred or other relation, either free or slave, shall have no pretensions or claim thereto, either through testamentary nor positions or donations inter vivos, which depositions and donations we declare null and void. And also whatever promise they may have entered into by persons incapable of disposing of anything and or participating in any contract. Damn, they couldn't even enter into a contract. Okay. Article 23. Masters shall be responsible for what their slaves have done by their command, and also for what transactions they have permitted their slaves to do in their shops, in the particular line of commerce with whom they were entrusted. And in case said slaves should have acted without order or authorization of their masters, said masters shall be responsible only for so much as has turned to their profit. And if and if said masters have not profited by the dining or transaction of their slaves, the procurium which the masters have permitted the slave to own shall be subjugated to all claims against said slaves. After deduction made by the masters of what may be due to them. And if said procurium should consist in whole or in part of merchandises or merchandisees, whichever way you pronounce it, in which the slave had permission to traffic. The master shall only come in for their slave in common with the other creditors. See, they saying a lot of shit way back in this day and age that are still being said to today. Only those that are on the private side of the, governmental ledgers are considered creditors. Everybody on the public side are debtors. It makes sense, how they created the Matrix. What everybody, refers to as the Matrix is the society that we're living in. It's fake as a motherfucker. It's fake. And it was done fraudulently and deceitfully. Because we wasn't supposed to figure this shit out. Nobody was supposed to figure this shit out. I even got a document of a conversation that was had, I believe in the 1800s or something like that. Late 1800s, where it talked about Social Security and the birth certificate and the Social Security card. Anyway, I'll do a video on that conversation one of these days. Article 24. Slaves shall be incapable of all public functions and of being constituted agents for any other person than their own masters, with powers to manage or conduct any kind of trade. Nor can they serve as arbitrators or experts, nor shall they be called to give their testimony either in civil or in criminal cases, except when it shall be a matter of necessity, and only in default of white people. But in no case shall they be permitted to serve as a witness either for or against their masters. Article 25. Slaves shall never be parties to civil suits, either as plaintiffs or defendants, nor shall they be allowed to appear as complainants in criminal matters. Are y'all hearing this shit? This is retarded, man. But this is listen. The Christian black codes paved the way for them to acquire everything that they got today. It's no coincidence, and it's not a mistake. So this is for all you cats that man, listen, man. Every cause has an effect. Universal law. Every effect has its cause. So just because a few of us may be able to, navigate, and get to prosperity, it ain't for none of y'all that made it to look down on those that haven't. Talking about pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Nigga, it's not, pardon me. Let me apologize for that, because, I need to stop. If I'm going to say it, I'm going to use the real word, naga. Look that up. Anyway, I'll get to it at the end, man. This is crazy. Okay. What was that? 25. Nor shall they be allowed to appear, as complainants in criminal cases, but their masters shall have the right to act for them in civil matters and in criminal ones, to demand punishment and reparation for such outrages and excesses as their slaves may have suffered from. Article 26. Slaves may be prosecuted criminally without their masters being made parties to the trial, except they should be indicted as accomplices, and said slaves shall be tried at first by the judges of ordinary jurisdiction, if there be any, and on appeal by superior counsel. with the same rules, formalities, and proceedings observed for free persons, save the exceptions mentioned hereafter. Articles 27 through 32 were not immediately available. I wonder not. Okay, wonder what's in them. Article 33. Slaves who shall have made themselves liable to the penalty of the whip, the flour de luce brand, and ear cutting, excuse me, shall be tried in the last resort by the ordinary judges of their inferior court, and shall undergo the sentence passed upon them without there being an appeal to the Superior Council in confirmation or reversal of judgment, notwithstanding the Article 26 of the present code, which shall be applied only to those judgments in which the slave is sentenced to be hamstrung or to suffer death. Article 34. Free or born free Negroes, who shall have afforded refuge in their houses to fugitive slaves, shall be sentenced to pay the masters of said slave the sum of 30 livres a day for every day during which they shall have concealed said fugitive, and all other free persons guilty of the same offense shall pay a fine of 10 livres a day as aforesaid. And should the freed or free-born Negro not be able to pay the fines herein specified, they shall be reduced to the condition of slaves and be sold as such. Should the price of the sale exceed the sum mentioned in the judgment, the surplus shall be delivered to the hospital. Article 35. We permit our subjects in this colony, who may have slaves concealed in any place whatever, to have them sought after by such persons in such way as they deem proper, so to proceed themselves to such researches as they may think best. Article 36. The slave who is sentenced to suffer death on the denunciation of his master shall, when that master is not an accomplice to the crime, be appraised before his execution by 2 of the principal inhabitants of the locality, who shall be especially appointed by the judge, and the amount of said appraisement shall be paid to the master, to raise this sum and shall be collected by the persons invested with what authority. Let me drink some water. Excuse me. Article 37. We forbid all the officers of the Superior Council and all other officers of the justice in the colony to take any fees or receive any prerequisites in criminal suits against slaves, under the penalty in doing so of being dealt with as guilty of extortion. Article 38. We also forbid all of our subjects in this colony, whatever their condition or rank may be, to apply on their own private authority the rack of their slaves, under any pretenses whatever, and to mutilate said slaves in any one of their limbs or any part of their bodies, under the penalty of confiscation of said slave, and masters so offending shall be liable to a criminal. Don't make sense how it reads. I'm going to show y'all what I'm talking about. It says, under the penalty of confiscation of said slave and masters so offending shall be liable to a criminal, to put their slaves in irons and to have them whipped with rods and ropes. And that's how it reads. Article 39. We command our officers of justices in this colony to institute criminal process against masters and overseers who shall kill or mutilate their slaves when in their power and under their supervision, and to punish said murder according to the atrocity of the circumstances, and in case the offenses shall be a pardonable one, we permit them to pardon said masters and overseer without being necessary to obtain from us letters patent of pardon. Article 40. Slaves shall be held in law as movables, and as such they shall be part of the community of aquests between husband and wife. They shall be seized under mortgage, whatever, and they shall be equally divided among the co-heirs without admitting from any one of said heirs any claim founded on preciput. Okay. And I'm going to go back. And they shall be equally divided among the co-heirs without admitting from any one of said heirs any claim founded upon preciput or right of primogeniture or dowry. Primogeniture or dowry. I gotta look that word up. Primogeniture. Articles 41 and 42 are entirely relative to judicial forms and proceedings. Why omitted, though? Article 43. Husband and wife shall not be seized and sold separately when belonging to the same master, and their children, whom under 14 years of age shall not be separated from their parents, and such seizures and sales shall be null and void. The present article shall apply to voluntary souls, SALWS, and in such CSE sales, okay, that's what it says, y'all, should take place in violation of the law. The seller shall be deprived of the slave he has illegally retained, and said slave shall be adjudged to the purchased without any additional. Boy. Article 44. Slaves 14 years old and from this age up to 60 who are settled on lands and plantations and are at present working on them shall not be liable to seizure for debt, except for what may be due out of the purchase money agreed to be paid for them, unless said grounds or plantations should be distressed and seized in judicial sale of a real estate, without including the slaves of the aforesaid age who are part of said estate, shall be deemed null and void. Article 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49 are relative to certain formalities to be observed in judicial proceedings. Article 50. Masters, when 25 years old, shall have the power to manumit their slaves either by testamentary depositions or by acts inter vivos, but as there may be mercenary masters disposed to set a price on the liberation of their slaves, and thereas Slaves with a view to acquire the necessary means to purchase their freedom may be tempted to commit theft or deeds of plunder. Ain't that a bitch? No mitter to set free his slaves without the obtaining from the superior council a decree of permission to that effect, which permission shall be granted without cost when the motive for the setting free of said slaves, as specified in the petition of the master, shall appear legitimate to the tribunal. All future acts for the emancipation of the slaves freed shall not be entitled to their freedom. They shall be taken away from their former masters and confiscated for the benefit of the India Company. I gotta look that up. Okay. Article 51. However, should slaves be appointed by their masters tutors to their children, said slaves shall be held and regarded as being set free to all intent and purposes. Article 52. We declare that the acts for the enfranchisement of slaves, passed according to the forms above described, shall be equivalent to an act of naturalization. That's that word again, naturalization. Y'all need to look that word up. It don't mean what you might think it do. When said slaves are not born in our colony of Louisiana, ain't that something, see, in the South, and they shall enjoy all the rights and privileges inherent to our subjects born in our kingdoms, ain't this a bitch, or any land or colony under our dominion, we declare, however, that all manumitted slaves and all freeborn Negroes are incapable of receiving donations, either by testamentary depositions or by acts inter vivos from the whites. Said donations shall be null and void, and the objects of said donations shall be applied to the benefits of the nearest hospital. Hospitals have always played a major part in this governmental structure. You know, they get kickbacks for every bond note they get with the same name as the mother or the informant, as it used to say on the paperwork, that names, you know, the child or the vessel as they deem it. Every time one of those bond notes gets sent out to the federal government, the state gets a kickback. That hospital in that state gets a kickback. I believe I did the birth registration process. Anybody that's watching this video that wants to know more about what was just read in this, I'm going to read it again. But if you want to know more about the hospitals, go find that video that I did on the birth registration process. It'll bust it all the way down. Fuck your head up. Anyway, let me get back. Let me just read this whole article. We declare that the acts for the enfranchisement of slaves passed according to the forms above described shall be equivalent to an act of naturalization. When said slaves are not born in our colony of Louisiana, and they shall enjoy all the rights and privileges inherent to our subjects born in our kingdoms, or any land or colony under our dominion, we declare, however, that all manumitted slaves and all freeborn Negroes are incapable of receiving donations, either by testamentary depositions or by acts inter vivos from the whites. Said donations shall be null and void, and the objects of said donations shall be applied to the benefits of the nearest hospital. Article 53. We commend all manumitted slaves to show the profoundest respect to their former masters. to their widows and children, and any injury or insult offered by said manumitted slaves to their former masters, their widows or children shall be punished with more severity than if it had been offended to any other person. We, however, declare them exempt from this discharge of all duties of services, and from payment of all taxes and fees, or anything else in relation to their persons. Persons. That's another word. If you get your hands on a legal dictionary, you need to look it up. Persons. And not them bullshit Webster Jones. If it don't say with the etymology, you fucking with a bullshit dictionary. Or anything else in relation to their persons, or to their personal or real estate, either during the life or after the death of said slave. Article 54. We grant manumitted slaves the same rights, privileges, and immunities which are enjoyed by free-born persons. It is our pleasure that their merit in having acquired their freedom shall produce in their favor, not only with regards to their persons, but also to their property, the same effect which our other subjects derive from happy circumstances of their having been born free. In the name of the King. Fazende, Brussels, Perry, Bingville, de la Grace, March 17, 24. So, for anybody that has never, been privy to the Christian black codes, you're not going to be able to connect certain dots that somebody that has been researching certain aspects of law as it relates to status, standing, jurisdiction, and status, standing, jurisdiction. Man. Like I was saying earlier, man, every cause has an effect, every effect has its cause. We was never given a fair shake at it, period. The fucked up part about all that is, when they first showed up, because again, I stated in another video, I believe it might have been the History 101 situation, I believe, but, when we first, when I say we, I mean our ancestors, when we first found out about, a Caucasian, what they refer to as a white man, we were well into our later dynasties of civilization. But we showed them love. We taught them everything they knew. They wasn't even standing upright. It's and I don't want nobody to get this misconstrued, man. I don't really, I don't have an emotional attachment to this, man. The thing about it is that, the condition of my people, all of these things that I read from the past are a part of the cause of what has affected into the condition that a lot of us find ourselves. And don't poke your chest out because you might make $200,000-$300,000 a year. Look yourself in the mirror. You know, are you doing anything besides lining your pockets? You know, and there's nothing wrong with being well off or making a decent amount, per year. You know, but I mean, man, I don't know, man. This is just me. I'm just, this is my channel. I'm gonna say what the fuck I want. So if you don't like it, click off. But at the end of the day, man, I got to go ahead with what's coming from within me. When a person acquires wealth, you're only going to see. They're only going to, if any changes, come out of that in that individual, they're only going to show you more of who they actually are. You know, I done seen plenty of people, start making money and the real them come out. You dig? They don't change. They just take off the facade. That's all. But I say the things I say and I read the things and I inform you guys of the things that I inform you of, man, because, again, man, I'm gonna take you back to one of the statements I made on it was one of the first 3 videos I did, man. On the world stage, man, we the joke. They look at us and laugh. Out of all all of us that's doing, well and, got this and got that and can do this and do that, we still looked at as a fucking joke. Because we don't understand, even though we heavily involved, a lot of us is heavily involved in politics, but we don't understand the game that's being played. In order for you to understand the game that's being played, you need to know about the inception of a thing, to have a full and complete inner and overstanding of a thing. But if nothing more, I read it because I know it's not being taught in the schools. And if nobody else, and I really could care less how, those of, it ain't just European, because there are multiple ethnic backgrounds that they've compiled into, to one category of white men. But how you feel about it, it's none of my business, man. And if you're offended by the truth, then go ahead and click off now, because this ain't for you. I'm informing my people. But with that being said, man, I just wanted to bring that information to y'all, man. Do with it what you will. But it's a reason why I developed the slogan that I say at the beginning of my videos, man. None of us have been alive long enough to know all that transpired in the past, and none of us can live long enough to learn all there is to learn. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm gonna go ahead on with that.